All right, let's dive into this whole gamification thing. We've got some interesting sources here, Wikipedia, and a built-in article. Should be pretty fun to unpack. And I think gamification, I gotta admit, I think of like those kind of cheesy reward programs. Like get points for every dollar you spend kind of deals.
Huh. Funny you should mention that, because those programs are actually a pretty good example of how gamification is everywhere. We don't even realize it half the time.
Yeah.
But it goes way beyond just earning points at the store or whatever. We're talking fitness apps, education, even jazzing up work a bit.
Okay, so maybe there is more to this than I thought. Both sources mention things like points, badges, leaderboards. Wikipedia even throws in performance graphs, stories, avatars, teammates. That's a whole lot of stuff. But does it really work, though? Do those things actually make a difference?
Well, some elements are definitely more effective than others, for sure. It really depends on, the context and what you're actually trying to achieve. But think about it. These things, they kind of tap into our natural, desire for achievement, competition, even just plain old curiosity sometimes. Built-in actually calls out a few key drivers: purpose, progress, pressure, position, and play.
Huh. I guess that makes sense. Who doesn't love seeing a graph go up, right?
Exactly.
Or battling it out for the top spot on a leaderboard.
Exactly. And that's why companies like Duolingo, they use streaks to encourage daily practice. Or Peloton, they have those super competitive leaderboards. They're tapping into that psychology to make their products stickier, basically.
So it's not just about making things fun. It's understanding what makes people tick. And then using these game-like elements to sort of nudge them in the right direction.
Yeah, precisely. But, like any tool, gamification can be misused, let's say.
Wait, hold on. You're saying there's a dark side to this?
Well, maybe not dark side, but, Wikipedia mentions gamification being used in politics, even by terrorist groups.
Whoa.
Yeah, it kind of makes you think about the ethics of it all, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's a little creepy to think that something designed to be fun could be used for, serious stuff. Potentially harmful stuff, even.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why it's so important to understand the different types of gamification. Wikipedia gets kind of technical here, talking about dynamics, mechanics, and components. I don't know, it can sound a bit jargony.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we break that down a bit?
Oh, for sure. Let's imagine a really simple game, like collecting stars in a mobile game, right? So the dynamics are the underlying motivations. In this case, it might be the desire for achievement or just to complete things.
So the why behind the game.
Exactly. Then you have the mechanics. Those are the specific actions, the rules that kind of drive the game forward, collect 10 stars to unlock the next level.
So the how of the game.
You got it. And lastly, the components are the things you actually see, the tangible elements. The stars themselves, the progress bar, that cool animation when you level up.
Okay, so putting it all together, I'm driven by the desire to, beat the game. Dynamics. I collect stars by doing whatever the game tells me to do. Mechanics. And I see my progress through all these visual cues like the stars and the progress bar components.
Perfect. You nailed it. Now, think about applying that same framework to something like, a fitness app. The dynamics might be wanting to get in shape, feel healthier, right?
Okay.
The mechanics could be tracking your steps, your workouts, earning points for hitting goals.
And the components would be the app's interface, the charts showing your progress, maybe even virtual badges you earn for hitting milestones.
Exactly. And that brings us to, I think, a really important distinction between gamification that's truly motivating, truly engaging, and gamification that feels, manipulative or coercive even.
Okay, I'm listening. What makes gamification cross that line? From fun and engaging to, manipulative?
Well, Built-in talks about this thing called black hat gamification. Basically, it's using these techniques in a way that isn't actually beneficial for the user. Like those websites that use countdown timers to pressure you into buying something.
Oh, right. Those limited time offer
Yeah.
things. They always get me.
Yeah, it's all about tapping into that fear of missing out, that FOMO, by creating this artificial sense of urgency, of scarcity. Those countdown timers, they trigger a stress response in our brains. We're more likely to make an impulsive decision, basically.
So they're playing on our emotions, not our logic.
Exactly. And that's what makes black hat gamification so tricky. It bypasses our rational thinking and goes straight for the gut.
Wow, that's, kind of scary when you think about it. It's like we're being influenced all the time without even realizing it.
It's true, but the good news is, by becoming more aware of these tactics, we can start to spot them and make more informed choices.
Okay, so awareness is key. But how do we become more aware of this stuff? What should we be looking out for?
One thing is that feeling of pressure, of urgency. Does the game, the website, whatever, make you feel like you have to act NMRW? Or you'll miss out.
I'm definitely seeing those countdown timers in a new light now.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing to watch for is a lack of transparency. Are the rules of the game clear? Do you understand what's going on? Or does it feel like you're being manipulated by hidden mechanics or something?
So it's about paying attention to how these things make us feel and questioning anything that feels too pushy, too manipulative.
Exactly. And that's what we'll be digging into more as we go deeper into this deep dive. We'll unpack the psychology of gamification, look at more examples of both good and bad applications, and hopefully give you some tools to become a more, conscious participant in this whole gamified world.
When we started this, I was a bit skeptical, I gotta admit. But now I'm actually kind of excited to see where this goes. There's definitely a lot more to this gamification thing than meets the eye.
I agree. It's a fascinating topic for sure. And the more we understand it, the better off we'll be.
All right, let's keep going then. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. We'll be back in a jiffy to continue our gamification adventure.
Okay, so before the break, we were talking about that black hat gamification. I gotta say, it is a little freaky how easily those tactics work on us.
It really is, which is why it's just so crucial to understand how it all works, Just because it's gamified doesn't mean it's good for you. Yeah, I get that we need to be careful, but where do we even start? How can we tell the difference between good gamification and the kind that's just trying to, trick us?
Well, one way is to think about the intention behind the design. Is it really trying to help you do something positive? Or is it just trying to get you to, click or buy or whatever in a way that benefits the company, not you?
So the difference between a fitness app that rewards you for working out and a shopping app that's constantly bombarding you with notifications and sales.
Exactly. One is encouraging you to make healthier choices. The other is just preying on your FOMO to make a buck.
Okay, so intention matters, got it. Are there any other, red flags we should watch out for?
Good question. Pay attention to how the gamified system makes you feel. Does it motivate you in a good way? Or does it make you feel pressured, anxious, maybe even kind of addicted?
I'm thinking about those mobile games where you have to wait hours for something to recharge. Unless you pay to skip the wait, of course. Now that feels manipulative.
Exactly. They're basically playing on our, impatience. That desire for instant gratification,
Yeah, so it's not just about recognizing the game elements themselves. It's about understanding the psychology behind them.
You got it. It's all about developing what we might call gamification literacy, being able to see through those tactics and make choices that are good for us, not just for the companies using them.
Okay, so we got to be savvy gamers in real life too.
Yeah.
Got it. But let's, shift gears a bit. We've talked about the bad stuff, but both sources also talk about some pretty cool ways gamification is being used for good. Where do you see it having the biggest impact?
Well, I think gamification has huge potential in areas like education, healthcare. Wikipedia mentions Khan Academy. They use points and badges to make learning more fun for students.
Right. I've heard of that. It's amazing how something as simple as a badge can boost a kid's motivation, you know. But what about healthcare? How does gamification work there?
Well, think about how hard it can be to stick to a healthy lifestyle. Built In mentions some apps that use game mechanics to encourage people to exercise more, eat better, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like tricking your brain into enjoying healthy habits, turning exercise into a game instead of a chore.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual benefits either. Gamification can also be used to tackle bigger societal problems. Remember that example from Wikipedia, the speed camera lottery?
Oh yeah, that was a good one. So basically, they rewarded drivers who stayed under the speed limit instead of punishing the ones who sped.
Exactly. It's a great example of how gamification can be used to incentivize good behavior.
Yeah, really clever. Okay, so gamification can be a powerful force for good, but it seems like there's a fine line there between motivation and manipulation, right?
Yeah, that's the key takeaway here. It's all about being aware, We need to be informed consumers of these gamified experiences. We've got to recognize those sneaky tactics, but also appreciate how gamification can actually make our lives better.
So it's not about rejecting it completely. It's about being more I don't know, discerning.
Absolutely. And that actually brings us to an interesting point that Built-in raised. Maybe the most successful gamified experiences are the ones that don't even call themselves gamification.
Wait, what? How can something be gamified without, like, actually being a game?
Well, think about it. Would you consider, like, contributing to Wikipedia a gamified experience?
I don't know. It's not a game in the traditional sense, I guess. No points, no badges.
Yeah.
But there is that feeling of satisfaction,
Yeah.
knowing you're contributing to this huge knowledge base. And I guess there's some competition too, like among editors to get their changes accepted.
Exactly. And that's what Built-in is getting at. Some experiences just naturally incorporate those game-like elements without ever having to label themselves as gamified.
So it's not just about slapping on some points and badges as an afterthought. It's about designing experiences that are just inherently engaging and rewarding.
Exactly. And as more people understand the power of gamification, I think we'll see more designers using these principles in their work, even if they don't actually call it gamification.
Yeah, makes sense. It's like taking the best parts of games and applying them to real life.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating, I think. We're really just scratching the surface of what's possible with gamification.
Okay, so it seems like gamification is here to stay, whether we like it or not. But, like, how does this all apply to our lives, to the listener's life?
Well, the biggest takeaway, I think, is awareness. We need to be aware of how these systems work, the good and the bad. We got to be able to spot those sneaky tactics, but also appreciate how gamification can actually motivate us, inspire us.
So we got to be informed players in this gamified world.
Exactly.
But how do we actually do that?
It starts with paying attention. Notice how you're being influenced by these systems, those apps, those websites that are always vying for your attention. Ask yourself, what are they doing to keep me engaged? Are these tactics ethical? Am I actually enjoying this, or am I just hooked on the rewards?
Yeah, like we're all players in this giant game. And the more we understand the rules, the better we can play.
Precisely. And who knows, maybe by understanding gamification, we can even start to design our own lives in a more engaging, more fulfilling way.
I like that. Okay, definitely seeing things in a new light now. I'm noticing gamification everywhere.
That's the first step. Once you start looking for it, you'll be amazed how much it's out there. And the more you understand, the more power you have.
This has been, wow, a really fascinating deep dive so far. I'm sure there's still more to uncover, though.
Oh, definitely. But for now, let's leave our listeners with something to think about.
Sounds good to me. What do you have in mind?
I keep coming back to that idea that the most effective gamification might be the kind we don't even recognize. It really makes you wonder, what other subtle forms of gamification are shaping our lives without us realizing it?
That's a great question. And definitely something for all of us to think about. It's funny, as we're talking, I keep thinking about how much our brains seem to, crave this kind of structure. Points, progress bars, that little rush you get when you achieve something. It's like we're wired for it,
Oh, totally. Gamification really plays into those deep-seated needs we have for achievement, recognition, even just a sense of progress. It's amazing how it can make something ordinary feel so much more, meaningful.
Right, like closing all those rings on your fitness tracker. Suddenly it's not just exercise, it's like a challenge conquered.
Exactly, it's all about framing. Gamification can totally reframe how we see things. Tasks become opportunities instead of chores.
Okay, but I'm also thinking back to what Built-in said about black hat gamification. If our brains are so easily hooked by this stuff, how do we avoid being manipulated?
Yeah, it's a good point. Awareness is key, like we talked about. Watch out for anything that feels too pushy, too urgent. Those countdown timers, for example.
Right, or those mobile games that make you wait forever unless you pay. It's like they're holding your progress hostage.
Exactly, they're totally preying on your impatience. Another thing to think about is the long-term effect. Does the gamified system encourage you to, keep going? Or does it lead to burnout, maybe even addiction?
That's a good point, like those step challenges where people go crazy trying to win.
Yeah.
When does healthy competition become an unhealthy obsession?
Yeah, you gotta think critically about it. Is the system actually helping me? Or is it starting to control me in a way that's, not good?
So it's about finding that balance, right? Between enjoying the game and realizing when the game might be using you.
Exactly. Which brings us back to that idea from Built-in, that the best gamification might be the kind we don't even notice. It's so seamlessly integrated, it just feels natural.
Yeah, like that Wikipedia example. Contributing feels good, but it's not a game in the traditional sense.
Exactly. And I think we'll see more and more of this as time goes on. Designers using these principles to create truly engaging experiences.
So it's not about tacking on points and badges as an afterthought. It's about, like, baking it into the design from the beginning.
Exactly. It's about understanding human motivation and creating systems that support it.
I like that. Not tricking people, but encouraging them, you know?
Absolutely. And that's a powerful idea, I think.
So as we wrap this up, what's the one thing you want our listener to walk away with?
That's a good question. I hope they feel empowered more than anything. Gamification is a powerful tool. But like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. The more we understand it, the better choices we can make.
So it's not about saying no to gamification. It's about being a smarter player. Well, this has been, honestly, a really eye-opening deep dive.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us on this exploration of gamification. Until next time, stay curious out there.